recording. Now, the reason that asking the question of what is the difference between communism and socialism is because communism is a type of socialism. The term socialism is the general term. Communism is the more specific term. So to ask what is the difference between socialism and communism is like asking what is the difference between a bird and a robin. It makes no sense. So then we ask, well, what is communism and what is socialism? Very basic definition. Maybe very simplifying things, but socialism is simply a government program designed to help society. Communism is a government program to help society in the form of public ownership of some entity or system, so that even in the case of, say, public roads, public park, public library, anytime we have a government-owned or public-owned entity that is implementing communism, and thereby it's also therefore it's going to be a form of socialism, because communism is a type of socialism. That is all. I just wanted to clarify that. Seems like there's a lot of confusion going on. There's different forms of socialism that are not specifically communism. There's also a resource-based economy is another form of socialism that I think will not necessarily require communism, but I believe by default of the goals of a resource-based economy, that would therefore it would have to implement a lot of communism for the resource-based economy to succeed, in order for the resources to be directed according to need, in the most optimal form. That would, I believe, necessitate to a degree. Ideally, it would have to have a lot of public ownership. However, I believe in our current, as an example, it's difficult to define a resource-based economy. But of course, it's difficult to identify, to define any economic system. But I'd like to give it as an example of a resource-based economic system within our current form of societal organization. Even in the USA here, we already have an element of resource-based economy, and that is not implementing communism, and that is in the form of utilities, where when the utilities are owned by a private organization, usually a corporation, that corporation, the utility, is being regulated by a Public Utilities Commission. That Public Utilities Commission, or the PUC, dictates, it orders the utility, the private utility, the corporation, they tell them how much they can charge, the maximum amount they can charge, and also requires them to provide a minimum level of service that the citizens that are served by the utility need. So that is what the PUC is doing. It is acting as a resource-based economic system, or economic governing power that directs the resources according to the needs of the citizens at a reasonable price that the citizens would have to pay, rather than so that they can avoid the price gouging, so they don't have to pay an inordinate amount of money for that utility. Say it's natural gas or electricity. So that is an example of a resource-based economy that we're already implementing, and it is being done without it being communist. However, I think ideally it would be a publicly owned utility. I think that's preferable to a corporate owned utility. However, it is the degree to which the citizens are exploited is minimized by greatly minimized by a PUC compared to, for example, in medicine, where there is no PUC dictating what the pharmaceutical corporations, setting a maximum for what they can charge, and also requiring them to provide a minimum level of service. And as a result, we have a very non-resource-based economy when it comes to medicine, where there's all sorts of drug shortages. So it's been a widespread problem for many years. And then also the price gouging has been a widespread problem for many years. That's what the end result of not implementing resource-based economic principles in the field of medicine. The corporations get the price gouge, and they just produce as much medicine as in whatever area that isn't at their advantage. They're acting according to the principles of Ayn Rand's selfishness. Whatever is in their interest, that's what they do, and that's how corporations work. That's how they're set up legally, to act in the selfish interests of the shareholders. I'm not criticizing necessarily specifically shareholders. I mean, I own some stocks in various corporations. It's the problem is with how our society is designed, where the corporations are allowed to act in their own selfish interests when there is when we are the society are dependent on that corporation to deliver a vital necessity like medicine, instead of telling them, dictating them, not negotiating prices, telling them you're going to have to. This is as much as you can charge. We're going to set a reasonable margin you can profit from, but that's it. That's how much you can charge, and you have to produce this much level of the medicine or medical devices. That is because we've determined, the PUC has determined that's how much society needs. And then if they don't agree to that, and that's always a danger. It's a possibility. They could big pharma could say, "Oh, sorry, we're not gonna." If that's what you're gonna do, we're not gonna make any of that medicine. So the government needs to be able to be ready to take over, and not be dependent on a pharmaceutical corporation to produce the medicines that are needed at the level of service that the patients need around the country. So that therefore, what we need is a patient-based medical system that directs the resources according to need. Resource-based economy, directing the resources according to the needs of the patients. So that a patient-based economy, a patient-based medical system would be a type of resource-based economy in the medical field. That's what we need. Whereas now we have a market-based system that is based on these selfish needs, where there's an assumption that the selfish needs of the big pharma corporation and medical device manufacturers is going to be able to serve the needs of the patients, which is an absurd assumption. And if they just had a modicum of testing of the veracity of that assumption, whether that works or not, then it would be clearly laid bare. We would be laid bare that is the false assumption. But there's a modicum of the sort of testing that is already done with medicines. Actually, that's what I mean. You see, compared, but they go through all these tests, years and years, billions and billions of dollars testings, any given medicine, to see if it works. but no examination at all is done. No testing, no examination at all is done to examine whether the market-based medical system is ideal, whether it works or not. Nobody tests that. They test all these medical devices and medicines, but nobody's examining whether a market-based system is appropriate and whether it works or not. Very, very unfortunate. So that's why I think we need a resource-based economy, and if it need be, it should be done as a communist system, that is communal ownership. That's where the communism just gets its word from, the word commune. The word communism. A commune, that's all it is. I mean, it's all sorts of all the other connotations. When you're talking about the principle communism, it's merely, the word commune, ism. Communism is organized around a system where it's determined that communal ownership is ideal. It doesn't have to be all-encompassing or absolute by any measure, as we see in our current society, where people are like the communal ownership, the communism, when it comes to public roads and parks, bridges, sidewalks, libraries, then they're fine with communism. So we just need to find out where's the ideal, how much communism should we have, and of course there'll be limits. Then if it's too much, well then we don't. I mean, people are of course not gonna have to give up all their private property any more than they have to give up their private property now. Just that we should implement more communism according to the needs of the society for any given necessary limits to the resources available. Whether that's resources are medicine or natural gas or electricity or water or what have you. So that's why I wanted to get clear. Communism is a type of socialism. That's the main point I was trying to make, but I kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent. Hopefully I brought it together in a coherent whole. I guess that's all I want to say for now. Thanks for watching.